I'm great. I'm just chilling.
So your first pod.
This is my first pod. Yeah.
That actually kind of surprises me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I just feel like you would be somebody that like would get put on podcasts.
Wow. That's I thank you.
Yeah.
I thought about starting my own podcast, but I don't know how that would ever happen.
What would you
Maybe
like?
one day.
What would you like talk about? What would you do?
Oh, just things that the Lord puts on my heart, life, following Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, put you on the spot. Go. What's he telling you?
Wow.
Right there.
Right in this moment. Well, in this season, I guess. Just the simplicity of being with him. I think these days with life, work, it's so easy to fill our days with things. And kind of like last night at SUB30 when Chris Hart said we can complicate our relationship with the Lord with feeling we have to add all these things. But we really don't. Like, I've been reading John Mark Comer's book. Sorry if I said that wrong. John Mark Comer, right?
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know who that is?
No.
Oh, it's okay.
I'll pretend like I do. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, he's great. But anyway, I've been reading one of his books, and he's talking about, it's called Becoming Like Jesus, I think. I don't know, I just started it. I just heard about it. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to read a certain amount of books in 2025. So I started reading it, and it's like the first chapter is talking about just being with Jesus. And it's just so good. It's just such a good reminder of like just setting that intentional time to not only just be in his word, but also pause and just let him like fill you up and just love on you. And so I've just been reminded of that lately of just, he just wants to be with us and just, we don't have to say all the right things and come with all these things. Like, he just wants us. And so, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, last night at SUB30 was so good.
I know. I'm really glad I went.
Yeah. Like, this series has been so good. It's technically we're in week 4, but with like all the snow, we're in like week 3. Yeah. So we've got a couple more weeks, but like getting to like listen back to like Dustin and Heather and like Pastor.
Which I missed that one, so I need to go back.
So good. Yeah, definitely do that. And like Pastor Taylor and Cassidy, like listening to theirs back, like I'm just like, oh, I was in the room and I heard all these things. And then I'm like listening back to it and like looking at notes and I'm like, wow, how did I miss that?
Oh yeah, there's so much good nuggets. It's like there's no way that you can grasp it all in one. You have to like go back and take your time.
Yeah.
Like that's why it was hard for me to be a physical note taker because I don't write as fast. And so it's like I've like with the School of Ministry, I have to go back. Even if I finish through, I'll often go back to go back through it slower.
Yeah.
Because I will not grasp everything.
No.
I'm like, there's many. One time I asked Hannah to reopen, I think, session 2 because I really loved some of the classes. And I just went back through and it was like, I'd never listened to it before. There were so many new things.
Yes.
And so, you just gotta go back and re-soak up, you know?
Yeah. And I've been doing that too with like my school ministry stuff. I'm like, I want to study this. And then I'm like, okay, where do I even start? And I'm like, wait, I did a whole class on this.
I know.
Like, let's start here.
It's a great tool.
And then I'm like going through it. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
very
this
thankful.
was here. They talked about this. Like, how did I not hear that?
Yeah.
But I think that's also just like how cool the word is. Because it's like, you will see something one time and then it's like God just opened your eyes to something so new because it's alive and you're constantly like growing with it and like the perspective changes and like what season you're in and it's like all the different things that like we're standing in.
Right.
It's like the word doesn't change.
Oh yeah. Or I think it's really cool where you'll read like common scripture passages and not that they don't mean anything to you, but then you'll be in a different season and it's like,
whoa,
water, like when you're so like, not dehydrated, but you know what I mean? And it's like, this is good. It's almost like you've never read it before, but you've read it so many times. And so, and it's just a reminder that the word is so alive.
Yes.
And it's important to be in the word daily, even if like, I've known some people that have just said like, I've read the Bible before. And it's like, but you don't, just because you've read it once, like you got to keep reading it.
Yeah.
Like it's alive and like speaks to you. Like that's how God speaks to us. Like predominantly is in his word, through his word.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah. I love, we've been talking about like being in like a wilderness season and it's like, I feel like the word wilderness can just seem like such like a negative like connotation. And it's like, wait a second, like how it's just been, I don't even want to say like reframed, but just like the way we've spoken about it as such like a time of preparation and growth. And it's like that's where I like I feel like every season can be a wilderness season for the next kind of like we're always going to be progressing and going somewhere. But it's like just with where I'm at and like even like hearing like Chris and Molly last night, like one of the like images on the like my drive home was like okay, I have control. Like I have free will given by God. I get to make choices, and I can either choose to keep doing what I've been doing, or I can make a change, and I can decide, like they said, choose hard. Like do the things that are difficult. Like it's gonna cost you something, and that not like that makes it worthwhile, but it's the sacrifice that comes with it. Like that discipline, like that opens up so much. And it's like, I think they said something about like discipline opens up blessings throughout the day. And I'm just like that's such a good reminder. But like the image like God gave me is just like, hey, like rest in me. Like let my word be a lamp into your feet and a light into your path. And like he just kind of gave me this image like, hey, this past like little while of your life, like you've dug this big hole, you know? Yeah. And it's like, you dug it. Like that's on you. Like you like, and it's taking full ownership and responsibility for my own actions and like everything. But it's like, hey, put your left hand here. Okay, step your right leg up. Okay, move your right arm up. Okay, left leg
just
up.
Being in sync.
And he's just telling, like he's showing me step by step, how do I get out of this hole that I've dug? And it's not by my strength that I'm climbing out of this hole, but it's him leading and guiding me. Already, he has a plan paved out for me, that I can just, okay, God, I can't do this on my own. And it's, well, yeah, I got you. Let me show you. And so it's just like a sweet reminder, like on my drive, that he's like, I see you. Yeah. I never left you in that season. Right. You just forgot to kind of bring me in, you know? Right. And it's like, oh, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. But he's like, it's okay. Like, forgiven. Like, let's just go. Like, okay, let's turn a corner right here. And like, this is where we walk forward. This is where we progress. This is that wilderness that I am pushing you and pruning you and growing you and preparing you for what's to come. And it's not getting stuck in that wilderness, but just knowing, okay, this time there's a purpose to this time. What comes after, I don't know, but I know it's good because all good things come from God.
Exactly. Well, that's what Chris and Molly said last night of like, it's important to know the season you're in and like to be like, live it purposefully. Yeah. It's so easy, especially like, I feel like in a wilderness season, it's so easy to just be stagnant in it because it's like, it feels dry. It's hard. It's a harder season. Sometimes it's like, God, where are you? I don't feel you as tangibly. And so it's easy to become stagnant. It's easy to feel like, oh, I don't have the will to open up my Bible. And, but to push through, it's like, no, like this is a training. Like God is using this season. It's not in vain. Like he is with me and I need to push past what I'm feeling. Yeah. And like the Bible's true. Like he is never leaving or forsaken me. And so to like push, it's like when you know that's the season you're in, it's like, okay, I'm going to wake up no matter what I'm feeling. I'm going to get in the word. I'm going to get in his presence and to continue through that because what I love, so I feel like years ago, I mean, only recently I've really been hearing more messages about the wilderness season. And so I was like reading and just like all the time when Jesus was in the wilderness, it's like there was always a promise like after it. Like right when he got out of the wilderness season, he entered into his ministry. Yeah. And so it's like, that's exciting for me of like when I'm in a wilderness season or which I have been like coming out of a wilderness season where it's like that's my focus of like I'm going to the promised land, like I'm getting closer and deeper to the Lord, and that's exciting. Like that to me is hopeful and motivating. It's like this isn't in vain, like you know, like God's with me, there's a purpose for this, and he's moving, he's working, he's like trimming off like the vines that aren't bearing fruit, and it's all just to elevate us. So it's worth it.
It's so good. It's like getting the roots deeper and hunkering down. Yeah, just getting stronger. Yeah, I love it.
That's what we're doing. That's why we have a relationship with the Lord.
Yeah. So you're getting to a place where you from the Northeast, right?
Yes.
And then moved to Tulsa.
Yes.
But there was a time that you traveled.
I did.
Like, I love traveling. I love missions. Yeah. And I know you got to do the world race. And I don't know very much about it, but I've gotten to hear some of your little snippets of just your experience, what God did and in you, through you, around you. And I'm just like, I want to know more, you know? Okay. Like, in my brain, I think about, like, what you did. How old are you when you did that?
22 to 23.
Like, I think about that. Like, that would have been right when I was, like, graduated college. And I'm like, I never would have, like, given myself an opportunity to think like that's something I could have done, you know? Like I would have, just knowing myself and where I was at in that season of life.
Sure.
I'm just like, no, like I've got to find a job. Like I just graduated. I got this degree. Like I've got to like, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, how did you just like, okay, the Lord put it on your heart. All of a sudden, okay, now the finances, I'm going to be gone for this long. Like, how did you get to a place where you're like okay, God, like this is like my yes is my yes, you know?
Not on my own, because I had those thoughts. I vividly remember, because I graduated Bible college from Victory, and I was working on writing a book the Lord like put on my heart like years ago, like, and I was like, you know, pushing it off. I was like, no, that's not for me. And then the Holy Spirit moved, and so I was working on writing a book, and I knew like it was what the Lord was having me do that summer. And so I kid you not, I was at a coffee shop, I was writing, and then I think I like took a break, and I was on Instagram, and I saw an ad for the World Race.
Whoa.
And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, I would love to do that. Like traveling, missions, like living a year, like serving Jesus, loving people. And then I saw the price, and I was like, never mind. Because it was $18,100 to go.
Wow.
And I was like, I just graduated Bible college. No, cannot do that. And so I kind of just like, you know, forgot about it. But then that night I went to church, but it was like on my heart. I was like, oh, that would be so cool though. But I don't see how that's even possible. Like I could not. And so but I just like kept, and I was like, well, if I do that, I can't finish my book that I feel like the Lord's asking me to do. And so I went to church, and I'm like walking in the sanctuary, and this girl is like, Taylor, and she knew that I was working on writing a book.
Yeah.
And I went over to her, and she's like, how's it going? How's your book going? And I was like, it's going good. I'm working on it, but then actually I am thinking about this opportunity of maybe going overseas. And she just like, without like hesitation, she's like, the Lord might want you to do that because there's things you'll learn that need to go in your book. And I was like, and I didn't even tell her I was thinking that. And so slowly the Lord just started bringing it, like, I couldn't shake it. Yeah. And like, he kept bringing it back into remembrance of like the World Race. And I was like, okay, like, I'm just going to be obedient. And so I applied. And I got an interview. Like, you have to go through these processes. And so I got the interview, and I did the interview, and I did not feel good. Like, I was like, oh, I don't feel like I did well on that. And so, because they only can accept a certain amount of people, like, each year.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, oh, man, I botched that. Okay. And the next day, I get a call, and they're like, hey, like, you're accepted. And, like, so you pick your route, because there's different routes that were going the year that I went. I went from 2018 to 2019. And so they're like, you can start fundraising and all this stuff. And there was like different milestones where we had to make a certain amount by a certain time. And fun fact, like 95% of racers are like fundraising like throughout the whole entire race, like the whole 11 months.
Wow.
And even sometimes after. And so I started the fundraising process, and I was like, I did a t-shirts, and I did everything that I could think of. And I think I made it to like 8,000. And I just was like, I have no idea where the rest of this is going to come in. And so I was like working, like I was just figuring out, I was like, anyone that I can meet with, I was like, give me 5 minutes of your time. I'm just going to share my heart. And so we had, World Race gave us a website, because that was where like each month we had the blog, like write about the month and like what the Lord was doing. But on there was also where we can track our fundraising and where people could donate. And so one of the nights I was like at 8K, and I was like, and we were about to leave in a month. And I was like, I have no idea where the rest of this money is going to come. And I remember praying, I was like, Lord, maybe you just want me to go for like 3-4 months, and then I'll get sent home, because they'll let you go as long as your money. And then, you know, if you can't get there, you know, you'll just get sent home. And so I was like, Lord, maybe you just want me there a few months, but I trust you. And I said that prayer, and I went to bed. I woke up, and 2 of my teammates that they checked everyone's website every day to see where everyone was at, you know, like financially, especially when we were coming up to a deadline. And my friend called me and she was like, Taylor, did you check your account? And I was like, no. And she was like, go check it right now and then call me back. And so I went, and again, I was at 8K. And when I checked my account, I was at like 17,000, like something.
Wow.
And I think I was just like 300 short from like being fully funded. And I was like, what? And so I went in to see, and it was just an anonymous donation. Like to this day, I still have no idea who donated that big chunk of money to like get me over. And then I was just in awe. I was like, that's so cool. What? And then like 2 days later, someone donated 400, and so it pushed me over the top. And so I got fully funded before I even left to go overseas. So that's where like I just knew, I was like, God wants me to do this. Like there's no doubt. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like I audibly heard, you're going to do the world race. It just was like this knowing and like a pull. It's like, you're doing this, you know, and like I'm going to make a way. And he made a way. And so it's like, yeah, I could not have done that on my own because I had no idea. I was completely out of resources. I was like, no idea. But God made a way, and I was like, that's incredible. Yeah. Like all him. No clue. Still to this day, no clue where that came from.
That's so cool.
The Lord, but you know.
I'm like hoping that person like that donated like hears this and just
I hope so too.
Gets to just like hear what that blessing was to you, and then how that then in turn got you for a year traveling, telling people about the Lord. Yeah, because it's still like I'm still unpacking things the Lord like did. I feel like it might be like my whole life I'll continue to like process like all the Lord did, because it was like 11 months like living out of a backpack, like traveling and like just loving on people and like sharing Jesus. Was it like one new country each month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sorry, I guess you said you didn't like know. Yeah. So it's 11-month mission trip to 11 different countries. Yeah. And so we'll go. Usually we have hosts that kind of they're already plugged into a church, and they already have ministry that they're doing in that area. So that way, like where we're going, we're actually helping, and like we're just partnering along with the church that's been there for years. And so we would meet and like be there for a month, do whatever the ministry was. A lot of it was like teaching English, working at orphanages, and just partnering with churches and stuff. And we did a lot of like human trafficking work of like in Thailand, we got to help build a safe school for children like rescued from human trafficking, because like they can't go back to like their normal, when they're rescued, like they can't go back to normal life, because often like their captors will try and find them again, because when they're free, they're like, you know, they're like, oh, they know what I look like I can, you know, get in trouble and stuff. So they often try and still find them. And so we helped like build safe schools and stuff like that, and just really beautiful, like honoring work. And what's funny is one of the reasons I did the world race was like there was things, because you always hear about God healing people and all these miracles. And I was like, I want to experience that firsthand. You know, like I don't want it to just be like word of mouth knowledge. Like I want it to be personal knowledge that I've experienced. And that's why like one of the biggest reasons I did that. And God moved, but he didn't move in that way. Like as much as like other people that went into different countries that happened. And I was like, God, like when do I get to experience this? But he moved in the way that I needed. Like
that's so cool.
And it took me, when I got done and looking back, I was like, okay, yeah, like you did exactly what I needed. And I didn't even know. So basically, sorry, I got a little off like rabbit trail there. 1 month in each country, and then we would travel as a team. There's like 30 of us, and so we would travel as a team in each country, and then we'd break off into our smaller teams. Yeah. And then just like go into the city and just
that's so cool.
Love on people, show them Jesus. In some countries, we couldn't even say the name of Jesus just because it was a closed country. So that was like really unique of just, you know, how do we minister to people without ever getting to say Jesus? Wow. But you do. And it's by his love. You just love people. Yeah. Like, because it shows, amazing. Like, I remember our first, which is funny. So each month, we have our work, like, scheduled out for us. Yeah. Unless we got, it was called ATL month, which was called Ask the Lord month. And it was like, we didn't have a place to stay. We didn't have work, like, scheduled out for us. We had to pray about where to go in that country and like what work we were going to do every day.
Wasn't that the month like you led?
Yes, so that was the first month that we had a team change and I got raised up to be a leader. And that our first month we went to Vietnam, which is a closed country. And so I was like, wow, this is going to be great. And so, Cambodia is what the first, like, where I team led. But in Vietnam, that was where they're like, you can't say Jesus. Even when you're talking with your teammates, like, you can't talk, like, Christianity. Like, you can't, because there's people watching that, like, well, that's, like, we had a host guy that, like, told us all this, was like, just be careful, like, you know, and they're like, we recommend just, like, finding a familiar place to go every day and, like, just see who God brings, like, or puts on your heart. And so I went to this cafe every day, and there was this worker there. She was young, and I just started, she spoke a little bit of English, not much, but I just started, like, talking to her and just hearing her story and how she moved all the way to that, like, city in Vietnam to like, raise money to go to school because, like, she couldn't afford going to school. And so just got to talk with her, and I met with her, like, every day. And our last, like, week there, we were all going to the mall to go see a movie and just hang out. And I was like, hey, when you get off work, do you want to come with us? And she was like, what, really?
Aww.
Like, you're inviting me? She was like, I haven't, like, no one's ever invited me to hang out since I've been here. And, like, just the simplicity of inviting her to, like be in community. She was just so moved by that. And so
that's amazing.
It was just, that was cool to me of just, like, I didn't even have to say the name of Jesus to her, but just loving her, like noticing her, like, she felt so seen and heard. And so it was just cool in those moments of, like,
that's amazing.
Just being the hands and feet of Jesus, literally.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, kind of in awe. I'm like, I've gotten to go on so many, like, different mission trips, like, throughout, like, my life, and it's like they've all been unique and different in their own, like, respect, but a lot of them have been, like, construction and everything. Like,
all right.
I've had one where it's like, okay, a lot of, like, going out on the street, like, street evangelism and everything, and, like, that was always like, oh
yeah,
this is not my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But it was like that, like, for me, that's always where I was like, okay, like, God, this is not me. Like, I am at my point of myself, and I was like, okay, God, like, it's just you. And, like,
right.
I actually got lost in the city that we were in. There was 14 of us that we were in Scotland, and just, I think we were in Glasgow, and we all separated, which was what we were supposed to do. Like, we were in teams of 2, and yeah, we started walking, and, like, I was paying attention, but, like, not really paying attention, and like, we just kept going, and then we were like, oh my gosh, where are we at? And it was just, like, so cool, because it was just like, how did we already get to this time? And then like we're seeing somebody there, and it's like it was just, like, looking back, I'm just like, wow, like, God did all of that.
Right, yeah.
Like,
well,
and
we
it
have to get out of
wasn't
our
me.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I was very uncomfortable. Like, especially, like, when we got to Asia, like, that's where, like, for the very first time, I dealt with fear and anxiety in my life. Like, I've never, before that, I can confidently, I was like, did I take life seriously enough? Because I never got, like, anxious about anything or, like, feared anything.
Yeah.
But then, like, in Asia, like, I remember I was having, like, an anxiety attack. I didn't know what it was, but I asked, like, my teammate, I was like, I'm feeling this, like, this, and she's like, I think you're having an anxiety attack. And I was like, what? I've never,
not me.
You know,
No.
And I remember when I got raised up to be a leader, I had, like, because every time we would have, like, our debriefs, and when we had the team change, our squad coaches from, like, the States would come in, and I had a meeting with one of the coaches. I was like, why did you have me be a leader? I did not feel fit to be a leader because I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I'm, like, battling anxiety and fear. I'm like, this is my first time, like, ever doing something like this. How could I be fit to, like, properly lead, like, people and stuff? And so he just, like, spoke to me about it and encouraged me and changed my perspective. But I did not feel qualified or fit to lead, like, with what I was, like, dealing with and, like, ever doing something like that. But the Lord really does take over. Like, when he, like, has you somewhere and he's called you somewhere and you're obedient and you take a step in faith, even, like, not knowing the outcome or just like being fearful about it or nervous.
Yeah.
It's like he steps in and the Holy Spirit like just moves in ways that like you just like I've never experienced unless being like in a vulnerable position like that. And so it's just, again, like I can't take any of the credit. It's like all goes back to the Lord and like his faithfulness. And so, because I was like, I'm not fit to be a leader.
Yeah. And it's just like in those moments, it's like, wait, God has equipped me for where he's calling me. And it's in our own mind, we're like, how? Like, why? But it's God's like,
right. Like, I don't deserve this. Yeah.
Like, look, and like, I think Chris and Molly talked about it yesterday, but it's, you're going to get into the season, like whatever the season's next or anything like that. But you're going to look at your past and you're going to realize, oh, that's what that was. Like, that was a teaching. Like, oh, I'm able to operate this way because I learned there. Yeah. And so it's like we can take all the things and it's just God just equipping us as we go. And it's, we make choices and God's going to turn it for his glory no matter what, whether we choose his path or our own. Like, it's all going to come back into alignment with what he's called for us. And it's all just equipping. I always think of like a toolbox and it's like, I can buy the toolbox, but I don't necessarily know how to use everything in there. Right. But everything has a purpose. And over time, I'm going to look at something and be like, I don't know how to use this. But I can go to my dad who, he knows how, like my like worldly dad, like my earthly dad. And he's going to be like, yeah, you just put it on the thing and you like turn it, you know? Yeah. And it's like, oh, like that seems so simple. But like sometimes it takes a season of needing that to then now I go into the next season. Right. And I'm equipped because and it's sometimes it's just asking too in these like wilderness or like waiting seasons or the like, okay, God, what's happening? And it's just resting in him and like being right there, just like planted at his feet.
Because he knows like what we're capable of. Like he created us. And so like we have to be willing to be stretched to know, like to grow. Like, because I even remember the first team I got, I was like placed with all introverts and I was an extrovert and I was like, how am I, what? I was like, I'm about to travel into foreign countries that I've never gone before with people that like it happened to be, and it's so funny because we laugh about it to this day. One of the girls, it was like something happened. I think like she responded to someone in a way and like snapped at someone. And I just was like, why would you like treat that? So we kind of like started off not like, which isn't a common thing that I like have with people, but we just started off like on a weird foot. And I remember like we sat down with our team for the first time and like the coaches were like, so how do we feel about like your first team? And like this girl, she goes, yeah, I don't know why Taylor's like on the team with us. And I was like, but she like said, like it was needed. Like, okay. Like, cause I was thinking that I was like, why am I like, I'm the only extrovert. They were all introverts. Yeah. Like they all like were around each other at training camp and I wasn't because they all like bonded together. Yeah. And she and then she followed it up. She was like, well, we're all like extreme introverts and like she's like the only extrovert. So that just seemed like I feel bad for her. And and it's so funny because we ended up on a team like our last month and because we only changed teams twice and we like she became one of my favorite people on the world race. But it was like scary because I was like, but I needed that. Like I grew so, like I was scared. I was like, maybe I just back out. Like I can't do this. But then I was like, no, like I'm fully funded. Like the Lord wants me to do this and stuff. And so it ended up being exactly what I needed. But I got tools that like I don't think I would have gotten if I got to be on a team with the people that I originally, and God was still good because like when we had that initial team change, I got to be with like my world race best friend. And
that's so cool.
So like God still was good, but there was things that I needed like to like have to then like be equipped to lead like at that point. And so like God knows what we need. And so we can trust him. Like, and that's why I like sharing, and thank you for asking me about this. Cause I don't like talk about it a ton, but I know I need to, because I want to encourage people that it's like, take a step of faith. Like if God's calling you to something and it seems way bigger than you, cause like I could have never dreamed of getting to do the world race, and like, nor could I've ever gotten there on my own by any means. But like, when the Lord is like calling you to something, like he makes a way, and like he moves in ways that like we need, even if it's not like what we expect. And it's just beautiful. Like I wouldn't like, it's funny. Like now people ask me if I'd ever do it again. And I'm like, no, like, cause it was for a season, but like I never questioned it. Like back then when I did it, people asked me like, are you scared to be gone for a month and live out of backpack? I was like, no, I'm excited. Like he truly like seasoned me for that and graced me for that. And while I dealt with different things like on the race, but I was still like, I was like, I had no, but like now I'm like, no, like that's not what God has for me to like. I mean, I still love missions and I want to do missions, but not like a year thing like that again. But it's just funny how God like equips us for
that season.
And
what
he
like
has
how
for us.
important like the stepping in faith, but like the obedience to like follow that piece.
Yeah.
When it's that piece literally that surpasses all understanding, where it's like, I have no clue why this is what I have peace about. Yeah. But okay, God, if this is what I have peace about, like I have peace about it for a reason. Right. And you've given me that peace for a reason. Yeah. And it's like at that point, yes is your only answer. Right. And it's no to everything else. And it's
you
like,
follow that. You follow that piece.
It's like the red light's a red light or like it's a green light until it's a red light.
A red light. Yeah.
But it's like, oh my gosh, or like how important like your yes is your yes and your no is your no.
And you get to see God move, and so like that's why I encourage everyone to go on missions like at least once, because like you experience God in ways like, because even in like following that piece, I mean when I got to share that story in GYC of like when my squad left us behind like and traveling like which I mean I think, were you in there for that story?
I think so.
We're like,
because that's how I learned that you had gone on this.
Yeah,
I was like, we've been friends for how long, and I didn't know this about you.
Because again, I didn't like really talk about it. But for the podcasters, my like when we were traveling from Ecuador to Peru, there wasn't enough, like our logistics team, like something happened and there wasn't enough, there was like 7 tickets that didn't get purchased, and they like approached us and they're like, so you technically only had like a 72-hour, 72-hour travel to get to our host. Everyone else had like 80 or 90-hour travel. And they're like, so you guys are just going to have to be left behind and figure out how to get to like Peru. And I was like, what? Like, huh?
I didn't think that's how this worked.
Yeah, I know. No, you get us to where we need to go. Yeah. And so anyway, like long story short, but like we ended up like when we got our first bus into Peru, and we were supposed to take like 3 or 4 more buses to get to our host. And when we get off like the taxi to get to the other bus station, not knowing when another bus will come, it could be hours, it could be the next day, like we don't know. And we get off, and like these like locals are approaching us, and like they're speaking in Spanish. I don't know what they're saying, but then I hear the one guy say the next town I knew we needed to get into, and one of my teammates spoke Spanish, and I was like, I was like, what did he just say? And like she listened, and then she said, he is willing to like take us like to the next town. And I like looked at my team and I was like, pray about it. Do you have peace? Like, and just this peace washed over us. Like, yes, like you can go, like he'll get you to where you need to be. But like, we're in a foreign country. We don't know. And so, but we just had this peace. Yeah. And so we like okay, let's do it. And so we like turn the corner of the bus stop, and we just see this white van, and we're just like, is that what we're going in? And like everything we're told not to do, like don't go into a van with a stranger, especially in a foreign country. And like when we saw it, I looked at the girls and I was like, do we still have peace? Like, what are we feeling? And we just we could not, it was just this peace. It was like, it's okay. 'Cause I would never do that. Like never, ever. But we just had this peace. So we got into the van and like we went, and he was so nice. Like he was like, do you need to go to the bathroom? Like always off, which on a bus, like they just go, like, they don't ask you if you need snacks or like, you're just going. And so he's like, you guys good? You're hungry? You need to go to the bathroom? And
that's so sweet.
So we're just going and we're traveling. We don't know if he's actually taking us where we need to go. This is our first time in Peru, and we're going, and like 3 hours later we get to like where like the next bus stop. And I hear him like talking to B, and she goes, he's willing to take us all the way, like if we want. And we were like, well, if something bad, like we still have peace. Let's go. Yeah. And long story short, we got to our host's home like before we would have, like sooner than if we stayed with our squad. Wow. And so I like called, like immediately when we got to our host, I was like, Tyler, because he was like our logistic leader. I was like, Tyler, I was like, thanks for leaving us behind. Like, we got to our host home sooner than we would have if we stayed. Just like joking and stuff. But like, I share that story because it's like that, like following that piece, it did not make sense. Worldly, like every like normal trigger would have been like, no, like do not do that. Red flag, do not. But all of us had this like, the most tangible piece I've ever felt like on the race, like, and so, and it ended up being so cool, like, and we got to bless this guy, like, because we paid that whole way, and like, because I think like at the end he thanked us because he was like, this will be really good like for my family and stuff, so we got to bless him, and like it was just so cool. But it was like following that piece that did not make sense, like in the worldly perspective, but like now it's a cool story to like share, like. And obviously I'm not telling you to go, like telling people to go into a van, but like, sometimes God will like have peace where it doesn't make sense. But like, you got to follow it.
And it's like just being like connected with him to where it's like, you know, that like, that's not just like the gargling and like in your stomach or like that piece that she's talking about. Like it just, it's, you can't describe it, you know?
And it wasn't that like, it was just because we were tired of buses, we were just compromising. It was like, like obviously we wanted to be safe, like we were, especially because that team, we were all girls, and so we were very cautious of like when we went out and just like being mindful and stuff. So just to have that piece, we were like, this is different. Like God's got us.
I think it's cool because it's like God's going to give you peace in like the big things, like the life-changing decisions, but also like in the routine of your day. Like I remember
littlest
like
moments.
Growing up, like I didn't grow up in a spirit-filled household. Like grew up different denominations, and it was Christmas Eve, it was Easter. I did confirmation in like the 5th grade, and then soccer happened, so we made excuses of why we never went, type of thing. And then it was like, had a friend that invited me on a mission trip, was actually like how like God kind of brought me back in. And it's funny because she actually invited me because I told her her shirt and her shorts don't match. Like I'm a very like admin, like I love everything to be like color coordinated. And it wasn't that it didn't match, like it just like was 2 different like colors of orange. So in my brain I'm like, why did you pick this? And I'm like, it's a rainy day at soccer practice. Like, who cares, you know? But, like, I'm like, what are you doing? But she invited me, and, like, that literally changed my life. And then, like, as I've, like, come to Guts and over the last, or, like, I went to ORU and then, like, came to Guts right after. But it was, like, during that time at ORU to, like, getting in my time here, I just always heard about this peace. And I was like, I didn't grow up knowing what the Lord's peace was. Like I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't have those experiences that I'm like, that's it. And so it was like, as I like really took my like faith into like I took responsibility for it. Like I really like was intentional with it. I was like, okay, God, like I'm not one to be just like afraid of asking a question. Like that's not my personality. And so I literally was just like, God, I am so confused. Like I was like, I don't understand what these people are talking about. I was like, help me. And he's like, okay. And it literally like, it became like, okay, God, give me the peace on which way do I take to work today. It's like, do I take 81st? Do I take 91st? Do I get on the Creek Turnpike? And I just like started driving. And I would like get to the point where it's either I turn right, and I turn right and I go straight, I turn right and I go left, or I go left and I get on the creek. And I knew every single morning whenever I would hit that stop sign which way I was supposed to go because I had peace about it. And God just like showed me like over the time, he's like, you'd never made that decision. He's like, I gave you the peace on which way to go. And I was telling one of my students last night, there's been a lot of like students that have been killed in car accidents recently and everything. And some of our like GYC girls are close to some of those. And so like one of them was just like, I don't want to be fearful about getting in my car anymore. And I'm like, okay, we're going to take a stand against this. And so like we took authority over that. We prayed. And then afterwards I just told her, I was like, hey, you get in that car, you have confidence, you have authority, and you ask God, hey, give me the peace on which way do I go. And I was like, that can sound so weird. But I was like, on your drive to school, on your drive home, if you're driving to the mall to go shopping, if you're driving to go get boba, I was like, I don't care where you're going. If you're coming to church, I was like, if he takes you 15 minutes out of the way follow it. If you have peace about it, I was like, and it can seem like, God, this is taking me 15 minutes out of my way to get to where I'm supposed to be going. But you never, like, you don't know. But if he has peace about it, and like, and not to like just make it like, oh, what the heck, but it's like it's just so like it's in the routine as well. Like that peace is there. It's just, are we staying like, I just think of like Peter walking on water. It's like, when did he start to sink? Was whenever he took his eyes off of the Lord. And it's like, he had peace about it. And so it's like, in the everyday, are you staying with your eyes remained on him? Or are you choosing to look at what's going on around and getting distracted by this or that? Or are you really staying connected with the Father? Are you really keeping him at the forefront of your mind, where everything is filtered through that? Right. And like, that's like Chris and Molly reminded me of that last night in their, well, they said what they said reminded me, but I'm just like, wow, like it is an everyday decision, every moment, conversation, every moment, every thought, taking it all and putting it through the perspective and the lens of Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So it's on the topic of peace, I have a question.
Okay.
Have you ever struggled with knowing what is not God's peace versus just anxiety? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's something the Lord has like shown me, and I'm like, that's like, this is awesome. Like, like to the answer to that.
I don't necessarily think so, because I've never really been an anxious person. Like, I've had like what I call like one panic attack, and but it was like my body physically did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
And so like for me, like I can look back at my life really before I was like living for God, and I can literally look back and realize, wow, I knew God's voice and I did not understand what that voice was. But it was like, I was a good decision maker. Like I did make the right decisions, even though I probably wasn't doing the best things. Like we always talk about, there's always an exit. Like God always gave me the peace on the exit type of thing. And so it was like, I didn't know that I knew the Lord's, like, I didn't know I knew his peace, but I did. And so it was like, as I like got older and like to answer that question, it was like, when there wasn't that feeling of just like that, I always attribute peace to like a deep, like relaxing breath type of thing of just like my shoulders are dropped. There's not this like heaviness to it. Like I've always experienced like the anxiety or like
nervousness
or something as myself, where I'm like, I'm thinking through my own eyes and my brain, as opposed to like, and that's where I'm always like, when I would get that, I know I'm out of alignment. It was where I was working in my own strength, or I'm like, I don't want to go yes on the peace because it's not what I think. And then it's, the response is the anxiousness and like the panic. And then it's literally having a panic attack. And I'm like, I literally had to ask my like best friend, and I was just like, can you come sit outside with me? Because I was like, I cannot catch my breath. And I'm like, I'm in a SUB30 like prayer meeting. Like we're praying over the room before service, and I'm just like, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? I was like, this has never happened. I was like, I'm not really one to like get this way.
Right, yeah.
And she's just like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. Because like she saw me across the room.
Sure.
And I was just like, help me. And because I was like, I've never experienced that. And I honestly, I can't even remember what it was, but all I remember is we sat outside the church, and there was this tree across the street, and God just like showed me, he's like, you're in a season of pruning. It's so uncomfortable. You're fighting me. Let it happen. Your roots are going to get deeper. And like, and it literally comes back to what we talked about earlier, like the wilderness and like being like letting the word water you, and like, just like letting your roots grow deeper. And it's like, it's so uncomfortable. Like when you look at it, like, I'm not saying when you look at a tree, it's uncomfortable when it's bare, but it's like, you don't think about a tree that way, where it's in a stage of life and like a harvest. Like it is like sometimes it's a making it through the season, but it's like the work that's done in that season is to prepare for the harvest to come. And God's like, stop fighting me in that, like in this sowing season. And like that's just what like the Lord revealed to me in that, because he's like, you're trying so hard on your own. But if you would just give this to me, whatever that was then, I'm like, I literally can't even remember. And it's like, a harvest is going to be produced by the obedience. And I'm just like, okay. And I literally, I look at her after like God gave me that. And I was like, I'm okay. And she goes, you're good? I was like, yeah, I got my breath back. Like I'm at awesome. Peace. And so it's just like, I hope I answered that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, you did. Yeah. Cause I just was wondering, cause I remember like there was a season like last year where I remember like I would just all of a sudden be anxious about something. And I'm like, oh gosh, is this the Lord? Is this because I'm supposed to not do this? Like, and I was struggling, like juggling if that was like that feeling was just not having peace about something or what. And so I was like struggling with that. And then I vividly remember the Lord, because it happened a few times with some things where I would start to feel like, not like an anxiety attack, but just anxious about like something. And I was struggling of like, what if this is God telling me I'm not supposed to do this, or, you know, and then I just remember the Lord just was like, I will not use anxiety to speak to you.
Yep.
Like to correct you. Like, I will not put that feeling on you. Like, that's it is so peace. Like, you will have that peace to know. Because I remember one of the things I felt anxious about, it wasn't a bad thing. I just was like, but why do I? And it was funny. It was like, it was a blessing that someone was trying to give me, but I just was like, there was this weird anxiousness about it. And I just was like, what if I'm not supposed to like accept it, you know? But it was a good thing. And like when God said that, it was like the enemy was just wanting me to rob me of a blessing, you know? And so, but that was just like a breath of fresh air to realize like, like the Lord will never use anxiety to like correct us or speak to us or like tell us. It's always going to be this peace where it's like a knowing, like you said, a breath of fresh air of like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the answer. Yeah. And so, yeah, you answered it.
And that piece is a yes, and that piece is a no.
Yeah.
Like, depending on where he's leading. And it's not...
But there's nothing negative attached to it.
It's just...
Right. That's the perfect way to explain it. It's literally just like a... Like, weight off your shoulder, and, like, it's just a knowing of, like, just this calmness. Yeah. Of, like, this is it.
Yeah. Like, I think about, like, I made a job like transition. Yeah. And I know you've kind of been in that same boat as well, but it's like, I mean, I graduated, I became a grad assistant in the academic center. Then I started working literally in a shutdown of the whole entire world. And I was hired. And I'm like, God, this does not make sense. Like was offered a job in the middle of the world being shut down in a hiring freeze with where I was getting hired. Like, what? Oh. But it was like, it was the right thing and everything. And so, like, I was there for the next, like, 4 years. And I got, like, promotion after promotion. And I'm just like, God, what in the world? Like, I was one of the youngest, like, Division I senior women's and athletic administrators in the entire United States. Wow. And I'm like, literally, I get told, like, or offered that position, like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And I'm like, what is that? Like, I had no clue. And it just was like, I had peace about stepping into it. And it's like, I was only in it for probably 1.5 years to 2 years before, like, the Lord moved me here. But I can literally, like, go back, and I've talked about it, like, at SUB30 before, but I was like, I always joked about, not really joked, I was so serious. I was like, I never want to work at a church again. Absolutely not. Like, that is not what God has for me. Heck no. I'd been, like, offered a couple different positions in the past, and I was just like, guys, no.
No thanks.
And the Lord was like, I was driving home one day, and he goes, Sierra, stop. And I was like, my car? Like, what are you talking about? And it's not like this, like, audible, like, Sierra, stop. But it's, like, this, like, just, it's that feeling that you just can't put into words, but you know it's the Lord talking to you, and it's, I'm like, okay, God, what are you telling me to stop at? Because I'm a little bit nervous right now of what you're going to say. And he's like, stop saying that you don't want to work somewhere. And I was like, but you know the desires of my heart. And he's like, but I also know what's good for you. I have the best for you. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not saying that I'm going to put you in a church, but I'm saying if you keep strongholding and, like, holding on to this, he's like, how am I going to be able to operate? Because you're always going to, like, hold back. Yeah. And you're not going to allow me to move. He's like, I'm not saying that that's what I have for you. Like, because that was 2 years before I ever got here. That was before I even got that senior women's administrator position.
Interesting.
And so it was just something, he's like, you have to let this go. He's like, stop like putting up a wall to things that I could be given to you. And I was like, okay. And then I was just like, but you're never going to do that to me. So like, it's okay. So I was like I felt such a peace about like letting that go. And it was always like in the back of my mind of like, oh yeah, no, it's probably not going to happen because God knows like that's not where like I want to be. And I literally remember like we're over by the ditch. We're having a kickball tournament in the ditch for GYC. And I was approached the summer of 2024, 2 weeks before we left for camp. And I was just like, there was just a look on the face of the person that walked up to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is she going to bring to me? Yeah. And she was just like, hey, I know you're not about like working at a church, but like, can I just pitch this one idea? And I was like, all right, I'm kind of intrigued to see what you have to say. Like, yeah, let's hear it. And so she just like pitched it. It was like a 1 minute pitch. Like, there was not a ton of details. There wasn't like an in-depth, like, this is the salary, this is the benefits, this is this is all this. It was just, hey, like, you're amazing at administration. Like, we would love to have you come in on the youth side of things. Like, do you like event planning and like coordinating through like services and mission trips and camps and all, like small groups and all these things? And I'm just sitting there like, okay, Lord, I don't, in my flesh, I was like, I don't like that I have a peace. But my spirit is so like stirred right now. Yeah. And I just told her, because she was like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I'm going to be honest, I hate to say that I'm intrigued, is literally what my response was. Yeah. And she's like, wait, really?
She was like,
I was not expecting that at all. And I was like, neither was I. But it was like, just on my drive home, I was like, can I like take some time to like, just like pray about it and like, just kind of like seek counsel about it. And so I literally was just driving home. And I was like, a lot of things for me, like, I get revelation in my car a lot.
You're in the car a lot when you get these revelations and the Lord's speaking to you.
Yes. It's just my quiet time. Yeah. One of my quiet times with him. But
it's your holy place.
Very. It's my sanctuary.
Your sanctuary.
Messy, but it's my sanctuary.
Hey. Yeah.
But he just like was like, hey, you always tell other people that if you have peace about that, step in it. Be obedient in that peace. He's like, why would you not let yourself like do that for your, like, why would you not do what you're telling everybody else to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I don't want to do that. He goes, want to or should do, or what you're called to do, what you're purposed for in this season, what you're equipped for, what I've called you into. And he just like started reframing my mind on what I thought. And so I texted the person that approached me, and I just was like, hey, like, I would like to come in. I would like to hear more about this. Like, I am very, very much interested and intrigued at the idea of this. I was like, I'm not giving a yes. In my heart, I knew it was a yes. I was just like, I don't know what that looks like. And so over the next couple weeks, we're talking through things. We go to camp the next week. I come in on a Tuesday, and I'm just like, I know the position literally isn't even finalized, but I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I was just like, let's figure it out, you know? Like, me coming to the people that are trying to hire me, and I go to my boss, which I was like, I had always told my boss, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is the place. Yeah. And I was just like, I loved my job.
Yeah.
Like, it's still something I'm like, if I ever step back into it, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing. And like, I love I love being with the student athletes and like everything that I was doing. And I'm just like, that love never went away. Like, it wasn't that I lost this like passion for it, but it was just this grace had been released from that season. And there was a peace, like my peace was not there anymore. Yeah. And so it was like, when I explained it to my boss was like, what can we do to keep you? And I was just like, honestly, there's nothing.
Yeah,
like,
the Lord's moving.
I was like, my peace isn't here anymore. It's there. I was like, I will leave it better than I found it, you know?
Right.
But it was just this, and like, as I was like turning in my resignation letter, like going through all like the channels, like everyone's like, what can we do? What can we do? And I feel like that's just kind of like a normal response of like wanting to keep somebody. And I'm just like, they're like, increase in pay, whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing it for the money.
Right.
Like
it's
never
not like you left
was
because you were.
Yeah. I was like, it was never about that for me.
Yeah.
I was like, it's about my peace.
Yeah.
And it's just like, because I was like, it's so important. It's like one of the most important things is to be led by peace.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, God, if this is my peace, I always said I didn't want to work at the church. And I get here and I see why this is exactly where God has called me in this season of my life. Like I've been here since August, and it's February. So like just over 6 months. Yeah. I'm about to hit month 7. And man, I thought I was like admin 101. And I'm like, man, I need basics of administration, please. Because I was like, man, like I thought I had it.
Right.
And like here I'm like, oh, delegation. Yeah, oh, communication.
Right.
Oh, leader. And I'm like, okay, I'm not proficient in these areas like I thought I was. And he's like, yeah, you're going to learn, you're going to grow. It's not going to be comfortable all the time, but this is good.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there like struggling with it at first because I'm like, I've got to do it all. Like, and he's like, you have help. Mm-hmm. And like for me, I'm
Can't
very
take it
much,
all on yourself.
And I'm a very much like,
I'll figure it out.
I got this.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask for it. Like I can ask questions, but I don't like asking for help.
Okay.
It's like a weird thing I've always done that I'm like, I'm so much better about asking for help now because we are a team.
We're
and like,
unit. Just like the church, we're a body.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like life-changing of just the peace, like following that peace and being obedient, even when my flesh is like, what are we doing here?
Because we think we know what's best for us, but we, most of the time, like, we don't, or we'll sell ourselves short because like God is always going to have bigger and better plans for us. And often the process is not at all what we expect or think, but like he knows like ultimately, like I said, he knows your desires in your heart and he knows how to get you there the best way. Yeah. And so it's just so encouraging. It's like, man, God really does have the best plans for us to prosper us. To give us a hope in the future, and we just gotta trust that because we are limited thinking. It's like, or we process things and we're like, I think this is gonna be the best thing. This is what I want. This is what I need, and often no, God. But so it's good that you're able to be obedient, you know, and trust that, and whenever and those times will come again, and you can look back and be like, okay, you've never failed me then, and you won't fail me ever. Yeah. And so you could always use that to look back to. I'm like, all right, we're doing this again, God. It's going to become like just a quick like all right, like you're pivoting me. Let's go. Yeah. Like
it's like how God's no respecter of man. It's like if he does it for you, he's going to do it for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like he did it for Taylor, so there's no way he would do it for me.
No,
if he did it for Taylor, he's going to do it for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like
I didn't do something right to be able to earn that. Like it's God.
Yeah.
So
and it's like I love like going back and like even hearing the same stories over and over again in the Bible. And it's like hearing different things and like gleaning different things in different seasons. And it's like, oh my gosh, like he did that for them umpteen years ago. Here I am in 2025 and I can call him the exact same God who worked it out for them, who will work it out for me.
Right.
Like how beautiful is that? You know, like
encouraging.
He's already done it all.
Yeah.
We just need to start turning the pages. And if you don't know where to find it, Google's a great option.
Yeah, or ChatGPT. I'm the world's worst Googler. Oh yeah, I've loved ChatGPT.
Wow.
Because I've always told people, I'm like, I don't know why I'm so bad at Googling, which I'm not. I'm very tech. Like it's not like I'm bad with tech. I mean, I've always like all my jobs have involved like computers and stuff like that mostly. But whenever I'd try and Google something, I would not find what I was needing. But then ChatGPT, I just ask it a question. Like I was trying to figure out like the difference between 2 TVs, and I just Googled like, okay, what's best? Like which one would be the best, this one or this one? And it gave me a whole breakdown of like the pros and cons of each, and then depending on like it, like if I'm doing it to like budget and like this is the best, but if I don't mind spending a little bit more money, this is the best. I was like, thank you. And then I made my decision. That would have taken me hours on Google.
That's so I never would have thought of using.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know nowadays people use it to like write papers and stuff like that. No, I just use it to get answers like from Google of like What is this?
Yeah.
How do I do this? And
Gave a few zeros as a professor because of chat.
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
I was always like, hey, try again.
Yeah.
Don't use chat this time, please.
How do you figure out that it's ChatGPT?
Oh, you can tell.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Anybody that says, oh, you can't tell, you can tell.
Oh, I've just never done it, so
and
I don't know.
Grammarly, there's different, like...
Oh, yeah. I've used Grammarly for, like, editing stuff, but...
Yeah. There's a plagiarizing option on a lot of the, like, systems that professors use. And so, like, when you submit a paper, it automatically gets, like, filtered through it. And it, like...
It could just sense.
Yeah, because it's like all of the papers through like say all of ORU, where I was a professor at. All of ORU gets like ORU people. Like I'm not trying to like give you any like secrets or anything. Like this is just what I've like learned. But it's like all of them get like put in like stay like a storehouse type of thing, like a digital like database.
Interesting.
And so it literally like on one of them was like it's 97% plagiarized from this person's paper. Like it can literally match from others. Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's very intuitive.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah. And as a person who became like was in college before Zoom and chat ever was a thing, I'm just like, how do people come up with these ideas?
Oh, I
know.
know.
I'm like, I never would have thought of this.
No.
And I'm like, I'm sure people were trying all the things back
But even I feel like I'd be so
college.
nervous to get caught if I did it anyway. Like, so I would just be too chicken to
I'm such a rule
it.
follower in that way. I'm like,
I'd be like,
absolutely not. You want my paper? No. Like, you cannot have
I'm so sorry.
it. I was like, I will sit and help you write yours, but you're not looking at mine.
Yeah, no. I ain't getting all my hard work and not getting
I was like, it's all from up here.
Yeah.
Which I was like, man, I look back at my, like, doing college for 4 years and doing my master's for 3 years and now being in like my second year of school ministry, I'm like finally at a point where I'm like, can we stop procrastinating, Sierra?
I know.
And I'm like, but like in this like last couple months, I think the last like 2 months since we started back up from Christmas, like it has been the most like rewarding time of school ministry. Not just because I've been like sitting in it, but just because of like the mindset that I'm in and like just
That's
like
awesome.
Going in it with like an open mind, like an open heart and like ears to hear and like eyes to see. And I'm just like, okay, God, what do you have for me in this? And it's like, yes, I'm learning and like, yes, there's tests and like papers and like speeches and everything, but it's God, what are you showing me in this time? And it's like, I'm looking back at, I think it was like session 3 from year 1. And I'm like going over in my personal like study time, like stuff that I learned from like Elder Scott Houston's like Fruit of the Spirit class. And like, I've just been like stuck on, are you really?
Yeah.
Love.
He's at least for online for this year.
Oh, like, but there's just like, oh my gosh. And so it's like, dang, I didn't like get to that point of like intake, but I was talking to, they're not like the principals, but like the oversight of school ministry. They're in the office next to me. And I was just like talking with one of them after work the other day. And I was just like, I don't think I've always been big at like discounting myself. Like was always compared to my brother who is one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like he is a wit. Like he's amazing. Like it's so cool like how his brain works. My brain does not function that way. So it's just like we have different types of intellect. And so it's mine isn't as the bookish intellect. Mine's a lot of the like common sense understanding. Right. But I'm like, I do have the book knowledge. Sure. I just have to put forth a little bit more effort than somebody who's naturally dispositioned towards that, which is him. And so like, yeah, we won't get into like those areas of life.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's part 2.
Childhood trauma of overcoming. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just this like, I've discounted myself and I didn't realize I did this. And actually like one of our elders is going over grace right now in school ministry. And she mentioned how her siblings did, we called it kaleidoscope in Broken Arrow, but like you took a test and if you like, it was like a higher IQ or like if you tested high in this area, then you're in like the high honors classes or whatever. We called it kaleidoscope. I don't know why they picked kaleidoscope,
Never heard of
but that was the word that was used. And so they got put in it and she didn't. And then her little sister got put in it. And so she always like, she literally was just like, what, I can't even remember like the sentence that she was saying, but she was just like, oh, wait, hold on. Like she even caught herself in the moment of her teaching the class and was just like, hey, like, nope, that doesn't get to come in type of thing. And it was just like such like a, whoa, I needed that. Yeah. And I was like, you're teaching about grace, and right now I'm learning to not discount myself because of the lies that I've allowed myself to believe since I was a child. And so like now I'm like, and I was talking with the person over school ministry the other day, and I was just like, I've discounted myself and allowing myself to like, I do have knowledge, like I have this like wisdom inside of me that I've never allowed myself to just really step into and own, because I've always just told myself I'm not smart enough.
Right. You just discounted yourself.
Yeah. Right? And I'm just like, now I'm at the place I'm like, whoa. Like,
well, that's why it's like God knows like where he calls us, like, because he knows what we're capable of. Like, you know, and he doesn't want you to discount yourself. That's why he's like, Sierra, like, stop fighting me. Yeah. This is where I want you to go, and this is where you ultimately want and need to be. Yeah. So.
But it's so good.
It is so good. God's so good. He's so faithful.
And he never fails.
I know.
In anything.
Nothing.
No. Yeah. But, well, thanks for coming on the pod.
Hey, it's an honor.
And being fun. Just a light, you know? Like, I think that's something I like every time we're either talking or, like, texting or just, like, in person about anything. I'm just like, I'm like, you're such a light. You're such a joy. Like, you radiate that and you walk in it so well. And so it's just an honor that you got to take some time out of your work day and come up here and talk into a microphone. And just
well, thanks for having me. Like, it's super encouraging. I feel so refreshed.
Oh, good.
So, thank you.
We'll see you soon on the
pod. Just let me know.
Listeners,
I'll come back anytime.
Just look for us, part 2.
Part 2.
Sierra and Taylor coming at you. Yeah. I always wanted to be like a radio host, and I'm like, I don't have the personality for it.
I think it would be so fun.
Yeah.
I was like, it would be really fun to have a podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll have a podcast.
We can speak it.
I'm speaking it out loud. Yes. You've heard it first here, folks.
February 27th at 10:02.
Wow. Oh, wow. We're like right on time. Kind of, right? 10?
Yeah. Jamie over here.
Jamie. Thanks.
Nate. His name's Nate. It's not Jamie.
I know. Yeah. It's Nate. Nate behind the cameraman. Sound guy.
Computer. The lights, the camera, the action.
Yeah.
The production, the everything that is SUB30 Podcast is. Well, we just need a camera to like filter towards you on these moments where you're like.
Yeah, you're just
like peeking your head over, but also like hiding behind at the same time.
Yeah. Or just your reactions to what we're saying, you know.
Yeah.
I did a reaction channel.
You did?
Yeah. But reacting to you guys would definitely be interesting, I guess.
Really?
LT
and Cole give a different vibe than we do, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah.
What do you mean? What are we just like boring?
No. Cole and Brody are quieter than LT and Cole. LT brings the vibe, obviously.
Yeah. LT thought about fighting Cole on the way to the last podcast, the second to last podcast they did together.
Why?
He just was like, it's a rainy Thursday morning. On my drive here, all I thought about was, could I beat up Cole? The answer is yes, I could.
It's hilarious.
I could have.
I could have, you know?
Wow.
Wow. We made it.
We made it.